Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. We're going to do a damage assessment from the massive crash that took place in crypto on October 10th, 2025. So I'm going to quickly go through charts. I'm not going to dwell on any one for very long. I want to give you the full kind of picture and what I think is potentially going on. Okay, so this is the Dow Jones. For those of you who follow my channel, you've seen this fractal before. This is the C19 crash, or the run-up and crash, and it's from December 2018 to March 2020. Once you take this fractal and stretch it to match the timing, height, and depth, this is what we get. This little tiny black box is the peak structure. It's taken on a lower time frame, and we do that so we can get an idea of potentially where we are within the structure. Let's zoom in and get a closer look. Okay, so here we are on a 3-hour candle. Now, this is how it could be playing out. It also could be playing out like this. We're not 100% sure at the moment. As this structure develops, we'll know more. I'm keeping it like this, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's like that. The key takeaway with this structure is that we potentially have this peak part that we still have to go. So whether we're here or here, there is still this portion to go, and we don't know how this exactly is going to develop. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is the S&P 500, same thing. December 28 to March 2020, which is the run-up to the C19 crash. Let's zoom in and get a closer look. So I think it's playing out like this. I could be wrong. It could be playing out on a larger scale. Just like the Dow, there's this peak part that could potentially take time to develop. To give you a rough idea of what could potentially be at play, this is from November to January, November 2024 to January 2025. It may not play out like this, but you have this peak structure and then you begin the decline. That is just one possibility. This is a visual how it could potentially play out. Notice how in this fractal you have this move down. It corresponds with something like that. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is the NASDAQ, and you know the drill. December 18th to March 2020. This blue box here is this blue fractal taken on a lower time frame. Let's zoom in and get a closer look. Okay, so you can see how this fractal compares to the chart. It does look like it's playing out something similar. Now, it's always possible it's playing out at some larger scale, but it does kind of match. And once again, if this is the peak, we still have the rest of the peak potentially to go. Okay, so this is that same time frame, November to January, November 2024 to January 2025. Similar to the S&P 500, this is something that could potentially be at play. And notice how the blue fractal and this whatever color it is, turquoise fractal, both turn down here, but there's the rest of this peak structure that still would potentially play out. This is speculation. We'll have to see how these structures end up developing, but it does look like we could be reaching the peak for this structure. Maybe there's still a little more to go. Time will tell. Let's move on to the Russell. Okay, so here we are with the Russell, and it's the same thing, December 2018 to March 2020. It's the run-up to the peak in the C19 crash. This blue fractal is this blue peak structure taken on a lower time frame. Let's zoom in and take a look. So this is the C19 final peak structure. Now, I believe this part right here could potentially be something like this. Now, there are some other fractals that we should examine that are not quite the same. Let's take a look at them. All right, this fractal is from 2021. It's the crypto bull run peak from the last bull run cycle. This is what the Russell was doing. Now, I just talked about this in my last video. I also discussed how it could be playing out on a different time frame. It could potentially be playing out like this with this drop that just took place yesterday. That could be how it's playing out. It also could be playing out on a slightly larger time frame. We don't know. As time goes on, we'll know more. But if this is at play, we would potentially have this peak structure. And just like in 2021, it was during this range-bound time that crypto did well. It wasn't when it was moving up. I know there's a lot of fear about the Russell needing to break out and blah, blah, blah. Historically, it doesn't have to do that. As we see with this fractal, this is what it did during the bull run. This is the bull run that took place with the altcoins in 2021. All right, let's look at one other fractal. So this is what the Russell was doing during the 2017/2018 crypto bull run. As you can see, it's following something similar to it. Now, after this decline came this sort of range-bound thing. And as I speculated in my previous video, maybe we might get a mix of both of these where it potentially enters into a range-bound time here. We don't know. There is also this fall that we should be aware of, and it does look like it matches this part right now. I don't know if we'll get this. This seems to contradict what some of the other fractals are suggesting on the other indexes. But it's something to keep in mind that there is this decline. We'll have to see how all of this kind of comes together. All right, so next we're going to look at the DXY. Okay, so this is the DXY, or the US dollar index. If you took the time frame from 1985 to 2002, it does this big cycle where it starts high, it moves low, and then it moves back up to the next peak. Well, if we took that same fractal right here and just copy and pasted it, of course we stretch it to match the rough timing, height, and depth that takes place from 2002 to present, we could see that it has done something very similar. So it is my belief that this has been the peak for the DXY. I've made many videos about this structure. It's kept me humble, especially this peak portion, because its peaks are really challenging to track in real time. It's my belief we are currently maybe somewhere here in the structure. In fact, we can grab this structure right here and copy and paste it over here. Let's do that, and we'll zoom in to get a closer look. So this is that declining structure. We're just kind of in the beginning phase of it. As you can see, we are in for a long decline. This decline will take years. And the reason why I'm talking about the DXY right now is because there's a lot of FUD about the DXY moving up, and this was the end for this low, and now it could potentially begin to move up, and that's going to spell doom for crypto. Well, I'm pushing back on that narrative. This is just a shelf, if you will, before the next drop. So don't fear that that drop is over. We are really just beginning it. This is going to take many years to play out. I don't know on a small time frame or a lower time frame all the nuances and the minutia of how this will play out, but as you can see, it's followed the basic gist from the peak, and so this is what we have coming next, folks, and that will probably be good for crypto. All right, so now we're going to start shifting towards crypto. So the first fractal that I want to look at is the Bitcoin dominance. So the dominance is how much money, it's a percentage, how much money is invested in Bitcoin. So as you can see right now, there is roughly about 60.21% of all of crypto, all the money in crypto invested in Bitcoin. When this falls, it's good for altcoins. Typically, money bleeds out of Bitcoin and goes into altcoins. That happens during alt seasons. So as you can see, it has been following this 2017/2018, I believe, structure. Now, there are some little nuances that are different here and there, but overall, it's following the basic idea. Now, if you've been following my videos, I have been talking about how this is going to be painful if we have to end up doing something like this, and I've been hoping we wouldn't do something like this. Well, it's happened. This giant spike on the Bitcoin dominance happened yesterday, and at the same time, crypto went into a free fall, massive liquidation. So this is what I was talking about. This is the pain that I was hoping we would avoid, but no, we didn't. So the good news is that this is just a spike. Now, we have this decline that comes, and if it continues to follow, it should come fairly soon and fairly quick. Now, there are some differences, like for instance, here we have the peak that took place on this part of the fractal instead of over here. Today's chart didn't move up as much as the fractal suggested, so how this drop ends up panning out or taking place is yet to be seen, but here's an important thing to note. This drop is really the end of the alt season. We have this bounce, and I would not expect too much excitement in this area. This is really the time to shine for altcoins. It's coming up. We're near it. We are going through the pain now, but we have a drop to come. In some of the fractals that I have been tracking on, say, XRP versus this fractal, there was a contradiction. And my only thinking is, well, one of them is going to have to yield to the other. And it's been clear that this is the king. The other fractals yielded to this fractal. This is what we should really be scrutinizing right now. All right, so this is the Bitcoin dominance. Now let's look at XRP. Okay, so this is the XRP chart. And for those of you who follow my analysis, it's my belief that all of this is the third corrective structure within the greater bull run structure. So this was your first one, this was your second one right here, and this massive thing is the third. So what happened yesterday, this massive liquidation, really, it kind of just tested the lower end of this range that it's been in. So to me, that's not too alarming. It was quite alarming to see it when it was playing out. And it happened so fast. I was checking it on my phone, and I put my phone down, did something, came back, and I'm like, whoa. But this fractal is from right here. And it was following it quite nicely. Let's zoom in a little more. So you can see it was following it quite nicely, and then it just began to deviate. Well, this was XRP yielding to the Bitcoin dominance fractal. So that fractal is king over all these other ones. I do believe, if we judge by the Bitcoin dominance, that it is possible that we have a rebound and we go into the blow off top of the XRP bull run structure. So once it gets above this high and it's going vertical, it has to be going vertical, you can count 7 moves on a low time frame, like an hour candle, to the peak. I've done many videos on that. You're welcome to go back and look at those. So how this plays out, I don't know. In fact, let's play the devil's advocate here. It could just continue to kind of bounce around within this greater range here and just be a really difficult read. But it is possible, judging by that Bitcoin dominance chart, that it could potentially begin to shoot up out of here fast. I don't know how it's going to play out, but those are two different possibilities, that it continues to bounce around in here, or that it follows what the Bitcoin dominance is suggesting, and that drop would equate a move up for altcoins. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Let's look at Bitcoin. Okay, so this is Bitcoin, and I thought it could make a new high. I wasn't totally sure, but it did. It made a new high. It wasn't very much of a new high, but it was a new high. And now look at this. Bam. We got this massive decline. You know what I want to do? I want to compare the peak structures from the previous bull run structures that Bitcoin has printed and compare what is going on here back to those. I'm not going to go back in this video because I don't want to make it too long and examine each of these structures, but this is the 2021 Bitcoin bull run peak structure. As you can see, yep, it does look very similar to what today's chart is doing. Let's look at another one. Okay, so this is the 2017 Bitcoin bull run peak structure. Once again, fits the basic profile. So this is the 2013 Bitcoin bull run peak structure. Once again, it fits the profile. This is the 2011 Bitcoin bull run peak structure. It's a little different, but it does have similarities to what is taking place on today's chart. So what does that mean? So that means that Bitcoin could potentially have peaked. What does this mean for altcoins? Let's take this one off and go back to the 2021 peak structure. Now, this is speculation. So if Bitcoin has peaked, we could potentially get a retrace. And in this retrace, this is when altcoins could do well. This also is echoed in what the Bitcoin dominance is suggesting, that there is going to be a drop that takes place soon. Let's look at one last chart, and it'll be Casper. So if you were to take all of this and shrink it down into this fractal right here, let's zoom in, it looks quite similar. So if the Bitcoin dominance is at the point where it's going to start moving down and Bitcoin has peaked, historically speaking, Casper moves up after Bitcoin comes to its peak. So I don't know. This is speculation. I don't know if we're at this point yet. But if you start seeing Casper come to life, that should be an indication that Bitcoin most likely has come to its peak. Now, I think this move up could happen fast for Casper. Time will tell. We'll have to see. It also could be one of the coins that moves towards the latter end of the whole crypto bull run. Okay, so here we are back at the Bitcoin dominance. So it's my belief that this chart right now is really the key chart to focus on. It's what the other charts have yielded to. We knew this spike was coming, and all the other charts kind of abandoned what they were doing, like XRP following that one fractal, and instead just chose to follow this. So this is an important chart right now. Now, let's zoom in a little more. So what I'm on the lookout for is a peak structure that looks similar to this. Once that peak structure is in, I'll begin to focus on the declining portion, and I expect crypto to respond well to this. So that's how I see things at the moment. We are getting close with those indexes. I can't pinpoint where we are exactly. We could have a little more time as some of those peak structures kind of develop, but we don't really have too much time. This is a crucial point in crypto and in the stock market at large. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. But if you did enjoy this type of analysis and you're not yet a subscriber, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I also have a Discord. It's connected to my Patreon. I'm active there. You're welcome to join. It's a $5 a month subscription. I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.